What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Busy Dad's Board Gaming. My name is Neil Odette, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Monstrosity, published by 3to4 Games, who provided me with a copy of the game. So, let's dive right into it. Welcome to MONCON, an annual monster conference held this year in San Francisco, California. As part of MONCON, you've been selected to compete in this year's Monstrosity Reanimation Competition. To win, you'll need to assemble your monstrosity using whatever you can find laying about your laboratory, or maybe even go dumpster diving. Once you've managed to assemble your monstrosity, you'll then need to find a power source in order to jumpstart your heart and bring your monstrosity to life. Monstrosity is a game for 2 to 5 players that will take you roughly 30 minutes to play. In Monstrosity, you'll first be given 3 hearts and you'll be forced to choose just one. Hearts will have specific requirements for your monstrosity throughout the game, such as requiring a certain number of body parts to be a specific color. The decision you make here at the beginning of the game is a pivotal point for you because it dictates your strategy for the rest of the game. Once you have your heart, you're ready to go. Everyone will be dealt 7 cards, and the player that has had the most stitches in their life goes first, or whatever other methods you prefer. The game is broken into rounds, or in this case, days. On a day, you can do one of 5 different things. You can seize the day. That will allow you to draw a card from the deck, play a card that is in your hand, aside from body parts and power cards, and finally discard a card to the dumpster. You can do these in any order that suits you. You can assemble, which will allow you to play a body part card face up in front of you to start forming your monstrosity. You can go freegan, which lets you draw the top card from the dumpster as long as it's a body part or power card. You could also do a trash day, which has you discard 3 cards from your hand to draw 2 cards from the deck. And lastly, you can play a power card. Once you have a fully assembled monstrosity that meets the requirements of 1, your heart, and 2, the point requirements of 15, you can play a power card in order to jumpstart your heart and bring your monstrosity to life. Once a player has reanimated their monstrosity, every other player will have a chance to pull one last all-nighter, which gives them one final chance to make a comeback and potentially win the competition. The player who has a living monstrosity worth the most points at the end of the game is declared the winner. Now, there is a lot to like about Monstrosity, and we have really been enjoying its take that style of gameplay, or at least I have. First and foremost, the thing that really jumped out to me from the get-go was the art style. Despite the somewhat twisted nature of the game, the art style they chose to go with, I think, really suits it. This is certainly a game that does not take itself too seriously, as much of the enjoyment comes from your ability to laugh at the grotesque-looking abominations you have assembled in front of you, with vacation braids on a T-Rex head, Christmas lights on a decaying limb that is powered and brought to life from a fart, creating wind power strong enough to jumpstart your heart. Learning and teaching Monstrosity is a piece of cake. It starts out pretty simple with a few core concepts and a very simple turn structure. The only thing you really need to explain before jumping right in is the heart and point requirements in order to reanimate your monstrosity. Aside from that, it's easy sailing, and the rest of the game can be learnt simply from jumping right in and playing. The great thing here is that once everyone is familiar enough with the game, which should really only take you one playthrough, you can then go on to add additional rules and modes to the game that really make it that much more enjoyable. Now, as I mentioned, this game incorporates into it a take that mechanic. So if you're not a fan of being messed with in games, then you may have some issues here. Personally, I love it. I love getting the chance to mess with my opponents because it gives you a sense of control, not just with regards to your own playstyle, but to some effect, your opponents as well. I can't tell you how many times I waited and waited and waited to play my 4-point head because I was afraid as soon as I played it, someone would sabotage me and it would get put into the dumpster. So instead, I would play a lower point valued head, wait a few turns to see what happens, and then play my higher scoring part. I also love that moment when you know a sabotage is coming and you can't help but sit there and hope that it's not coming to you. You can always tell it's coming because someone will draw a card, giggle a little bit to themselves, and then start eyeballing what everybody else has for a monstrosity around the table. I really enjoy those moments. Monstrosity is definitely a filler game, albeit a pretty great one. One that's quick to the table, quick to play with very short player turns that keeps players engaged throughout, and then quick to put away. That being said, it can feel as though it drags on from time to time, which is the first problem I have with games that have this style of take that mechanic. Regardless of how much I enjoy messing with and being messed with in games like this, it definitely adds to the overall time it takes to play the game. Not only that, but you might spend turn after turn after turn looking for one specific body part only to play it on your next turn and then quickly have it taken away through a sabotage card. Now, that in itself isn't the problem. The problem lies in the fact that you will likely now spend the rest of the game looking for that one part that completes your monstrosity, with little to no chance of getting it until the deck runs out and you shuffle the discard pile to make a new one. Of course, this is very uncommon as there are lots of body parts to go around in the deck, but I have seen it happen a time or two in my dozen or so plays of the game. With all that being said, the gameplay here is still really solid. Between the basic game, the additional rules, as well as team play, if that's something you're interested in, there is certainly enough to this little box that makes you want to play it again and again. We often have a list of quick go-to games for medium to large groups that are looking for something just fun and quick to play. And this has been at the top of that list since it arrived. Now, as I mentioned, the turns are quick. There's a fair amount of strategy for what otherwise seems like a rather simple game. The art is very well done and tends to get a laugh almost every time we get it to the table. And for me, the player interaction in games like this is something I always enjoy because it gets people talking, sometimes actually begging as they try and convince their opponents not to sabotage them. And aside from the minor issue I mentioned, I haven't had any problems. So overall, if you're looking for a quick, lightweight filler game for when you have friends and family over, this is certainly a game that I think you should look into. With all that being said, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. But there you have it. That was my review of Monstrosity, published by 3-4 Games. Now, if you're watching this video around the time that it's published, you should know that Monstrosity is coming to Kickstarter sometime in late April 2021. I'll leave links for it in the description below. But go ahead and smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified on any future videos. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links for everything in the description also below. But until next time, thanks for watching and happy gaming.